Welcome back, guys, to Granblue Fantasy Relink. Well, last episode, with Chapter 6 awaiting, we decided to take a break and check out some Fate episodes. So after making our skies safe again with the Grandcypher's new cannons, we witnessed backstory and more of Gran, Catalina, and Rackham, finding combat quests involved in 2 of the stories. We now work our way through the rest of the crew. Big increases for us. Right, so that's 3 characters down at this point in time. We've still got 4 more to go when you count Yodarha was added to our crew, but I think we'll undertake another quest at this point. Let's get the last one on the easy list out. Guard our hometown, defeat all Avia foes.
Yeah. It's in your hands now.
Truly got a list of things to do before we actually go on for our next story mission. So we know EO only has a couple of chapters. We'll have to see about the others at this point.
We ready?
Stay focused. How many of them are there? Don't let them swarm you.
I'm totally not letting them swarm me. That's it, I'm going to the back. No way I'm letting that hang on, you know?
They just keep coming. But we'll show them who's boss.
What the hell? Oh my goodness, this is a... Well, I'd be able to finish that one off, but I'm just getting battered around by him. Alright, let's just get into their battle line, shall we? I admit, I wasn't expecting some flag bearer guys to suddenly be like that. It's a bit harder to approach the archers than I would have thought. It's like Rackham's just taking everyone on.
Not a single fatty left. Let's go check out the next place.
That was a bit of a
Panacea!
to-do. Guess this would be the beauty of another ranged person. Just... My goodness.
Not liking the look of this.
No, what the hell?
Don't let it intimidate you.
Got like a back line formation and a front line formation.
Looking good.
Help, flag bearer guy coming for me. Okay, I have got myself a bit surrounded here. I'm just tanking at the moment. I could guard. I guess it's an option too, but I'll just be a distraction.
And I think that's everything. You were awesome out there.
So that everyone else could do DPS? That's totally what I was doing.
We did it! And we did it together!
See, if you didn't understand, the entire strategy was that I was breaking their formation. Totally. No healing needed? I don't know about that. Yeah, Rackham, get to work. An S+. I mean, I'll take it. Totally deserved it, right? I feel like there's it's a bit, that's a lot of people to fight against. Just hanging at the back of Rackham and just nuking people with abilities sounds like quite a fun thing to do at that kind of point. Right, those are our easy quests done. Ooh. Now we move on with even more to do. So let's find who has a 5er. By the look of it, you do. No, you can't go up to episode 5, but you can go to episode 3 by the look of it. So you can go to there. Rosetta can only go to 3. Yodarha can only go to 4. So really, we actually have a lot less to read or watch than I thought we did. Let's go with Io then. Episode 1, Favorite Teacher. Io.
A few years before I met the crew, I lost my parents to an epidemic. I mourned their deaths for who knows how long. I could barely even bring myself to face reality each morning. With no living relatives in vaults, I was like a ship adrift at sea. I had nowhere to go and nowhere to belong. Until one day, my master reached out his hand to me. I was so depressed I just kept staring at the ground. But that gentle smile never left his face as he asked me, "Why do you look so sad?" There was something in his voice that made me look up. When I did, a beautiful bouquet of flowers appeared in his hand, seemingly out of thin air. I had no idea how he'd done it, but I knew it must have been some kind of parlor trick. But he insisted it was magic. What a goofball, right? Saying that when he can use real magic. But it was just the magic I needed at that moment. Beautiful and kind. He went on to show me all kinds of incredible spells, the likes of which I'd never seen before. Watching him made me smile at a time when I thought I'd forgotten how. My master would always say that magic exists to make people happy. Something about that spoke to me. It made me want to become a mage just like him. So I signed myself up as his disciple, begging him to teach me magic. I'll never forget how happy I was when he told me I had talent. After all, if he was right, that meant I had the potential to make people smile too.
And episode 2, Smile Conjurer.
One day, shortly after I joined the crew, I suddenly lost the ability to use magic. No matter how many times I tried casting a spell, nothing happened. I had no clue what to do. The rest of the crew thought Master Zaka might have the answers I needed, so we set sail for vaults. It'd been forever since I'd been back home. My master was thrilled to see how much I'd grown. I opened my mouth to ask him about my problem, but when I saw how happy he looked, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I'd promised him that I'd come back as a great mage, but there I was, unable to cast even a single spell. The last thing I wanted was for him to be disappointed in me. Around that time, an epidemic returned to vaults, the same disease that had claimed the lives of my parents. Wanting to keep it from spreading any further, my master headed to the clinic to speak with the people who'd been infected. But he ended up getting sick too. The source of the epidemic turned out to be an evil spirit that revealed itself to us right there in the clinic. I immediately confronted it. That rotten creature had already taken my parents from me. I wasn't gonna let it take anyone else. Determined to make it pay, I raised my staff, but nothing happened. I'll never forget how it felt to watch, helplessly, as my parents' killer got away. The crew gave chase, but I continued to stand where I was. Without my magic, I didn't see the point. I'd just end up getting in the way. All I could do was watch as my master suffered, withering away. Nothing had changed since the last time. But you know, it wasn't all bad. In search of a solution to my magic loss at the local library, I happened to come across a beautiful golden staff, one left to me by my mother. That's when Master Zaka revealed that my mother had been a mage too. On the verge of tears, I clenched my staff tightly in frustration. My beloved home and master were being threatened by a disease-spreading spirit, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Just as I began feeling completely hopeless, the staff began to glow. Somehow I could feel it encouraging me, empowering me. So what if I couldn't use magic? Surely there were other ways to help everyone. Unable to stand around doing nothing any longer, I ran off to find the crew. When I finally tracked them down, they'd already been rendered powerless by the disease. That left me as the only person who could fight. There wasn't a second to lose. It was that moment when I decided I was done running away. I'd promised myself a long time ago that I was going to use my magic to make people happy. Filled with newfound resolve, I heard a voice coming from the staff. Is that you? The voice told me to visualize the power flowing through me. As I did, I could feel magic welling up inside me, flooding out from deep within. With my mom's help, I was able to defeat the evil spirits. As soon as it was gone, I erupted from my staff. I turned to see the rest of the crew climbing to their feet, their symptoms gone. The power spread through the entire island of Valsteci, eliminating the disease and bringing smiles back to the people. Things were a little touch and go there for a while, but in the end, everyone pulled through. And I've been able to use my magic without any issue ever since. I just know it's because my mom is watching over me through my staff. Thanks to her, I can keep traveling with the crew, using the staff she left me to bring out more smiles along the way.
That episode was more of a full story. And that's as far as we can go for now. I do wonder what the progress for the main story point actually is. We'll find out in time. So, move on yet again. Eugen is next. Episode 1, Family Matters.
How'd me and my daughter end up estranged? Well, the first thing you need to know is that my wife was stricken by a terminal illness. I refused to listen to the doctors. Terminal my foot. Even if there was no cure in Auguste, surely there ought to have been something in other lands. And so, I left my family at home, crisscrossing the skies looking for a cure. Got into a lot of adventures along the way, and somehow ended up making a name for myself. But no matter how far and wide I traveled, the cure eluded me. And while I was away, my wife, she breathed her last. I wasn't there for her when she needed me most. I never even got the chance to say goodbye. Regret and self-loathing crashed over me in never-ending waves, threatening to pull me under. You can't even begin to imagine the pain. And there was nothing I could do about it. It was all my fault. My daughter spent countless days looking after her sick mother, fighting off fear and dread. It's not hard to imagine why she hates me. She must have asked herself time and again, why was her father gallivanting across the skies while his family suffered? By the time I finally came home, she was long gone. There were no other relatives to turn to. The only family she'd known was no more. All I could do was stand dazed and helpless in the cold, empty shell of the home we'd made.
Yeah, that riff makes sense. Harsh memories.
After that, 15 years passed. I met the captain, and through my travels with the crew, reunited with my daughter. This might surprise you, but we didn't have a tearful, touching father-daughter reunion the second time around either. I spent so long telling myself that the next time we met, I'd face up to my past. But when the moment came, I froze. What could I possibly say or do for her as a father after all this time? Any courage I'd mustered withered in the face of her scorn, and I was left standing there, feeling like an old bastard. Sometime after this heartwarming reunion, I bonded with Leviathan, and through our link, saw glimpses of what lay in my daughter's heart. I thought I had escaped all those painful memories, but here they were. In that world created by the pact with Leviathan, my wife was still alive. I saw how things might have been if I had done things differently. Of course, I knew none of this was real, but I would rather stay in a world of memory than live in a cold, lonely reality without her. But she wasn't having any of that. She said I couldn't sacrifice my future to dwell in the past. She made me promise to fix things between myself and our daughter. Said she'd boot me out of the ocean if I came back without completing my task. Her words finally gave me the push I needed to face my past and start on the path to a brighter future. They gave me the strength to fight for my daughter in her hour of need. And I'd like to think that I finally did something fatherly, if only just the once. Of course, I don't expect our relationship to be mended with one conversation or act of bravery. But little by little, I think we're getting there.
A useful power, I guess. Episode 3, moving forward.
When Tempeal was hit by a devastating storm, refugees flocked to the safe haven of Folka. We heard the news and docked on the island, which was buzzing with activity. It was clear. All hands were needed on deck as reconstruction efforts got underway. So we walked through the city, looking out for opportunities to help. That's when we saw a distressed young draff. We didn't know the details, but it was plain as day that something wasn't right. He was stumbling around, eyes unfocused, and staring into space. I couldn't shake the feeling that we shouldn't leave him on his own, so we ended up trailing him. We came to the edge of a cliff. Though the morning sun shone on our faces, a frigid wind blew down our backs. The draft just stood at the edge, staring at something only he could see. Hey, careful there! With the wind whipping around like this, you might lose your footing! The draft whirled around, taken off guard. After a while, he looked away, shrugging.
Thanks for your concern.
You look like you've got something on your mind. If you want a friendly ear, you've got him here.
I guess I do.
He smiled, though the expression didn't reach his eyes. The draft introduced himself as Karzeda. Back in Tempeal, he was a jeweler's apprentice.
My childhood friend was caught up in that storm. I was in love with her. Could never get up the courage to tell her. And now it's too late.
Karzeda bit down on his lip, as if he was trying to hold back his despair. He went on, telling us that he'd hit a slump in his apprenticeship. Nothing he did could gain his master's approval. His frustration boiled over, and he got into a rip-roaring fight with his friend. Hurt, she fled from the workshop. He didn't go after her.
I wish I had, because that's the day the storm came.
Karzeda's face twisted in agony. He made a mistake, and it ended up costing him someone dear. I could understand all too well.
And now for a horde quest by the look of it. Words left unspoken. Okay, we must play as Eugen for this one. So how are we doing for the Master's Review? Oh, we haven't powered you up at all? Oh, I should totally have done that by now. Let's go. Let's take you all the way down to here. Because that only uses 18.
Let's see the young bucks do this.
And yeah, we can see that we could do
Love it.
fair whacks of his stuff by just doing this.
Lovely.
We can get some skills like Venom Grenade, Poison Status Effect, another gunner. All right, we kind of want you to have 4 skills at least, but the question is like,
Good
where do we
stuff.
go to get them?
Yes.
This is using a lot of points. Enhanced grenades, link time. There's a skill over here, detonator, switches to sniper vision for a chargeable shot. Hold while activating the charge and aim.
Yep, that'll do.
That's 12% on your board there. I mean, your defense, we got you the perfect guard, etc.
Lovely.
Not going to have anything for anyone else in case they've got a quest at this point, but there we go. We'll get you leveled up just a little bit. To be honest, we should probably go to see if we could power up your weapons some more or evolve it. Whatever we did, unbreak its level, that was the one. Forging weapons. A champion merit is a resource needed for forging weapons. Oh, we can forge new weapons as well. Make your journey easier by creating a variety of weapons for any situation.
I can make just about anything.
The level 40 weapons can be made. Durandal. I mean, I can make it, but I can't use it, right? Does it just allow me to equip that? Well, it costs like 5,000. I'm assuming because it says level 40 that I can't equip it, but it'd be weird if I could.
It's a success.
It's very nice. Wait, I can just equip higher level
I'll
weapons?
handle it.
I mean, that sounds great to me. I could make it even more powerful too. How much money is this taking? Well, at the moment, main character's got a lot of stuff. I was only going to intend to uncap it, but there's a big jump in attack there, like 200 attack worth. So yeah, we were going to do something for you.
I'll unlock its hidden potential. Well, look at that.
So I'll uncap your level there,
I'll handle it. Success.
and then enhance it to 30. That was the intention anyway, let's put it that way. Rackham's got his wheel lock axe in the first place. Yes, guy's getting more powerful stuff. You've got a flame rapier? Where did you get that?
I'll handle it. How about that?
Not equipped, I can tell you that for certain. I don't think we can uncap past that. And you don't have a new weapon at the moment. Let's uncap your weapon as well, and then level that up.
I'll handle it. Good.
We only had enough to go to 15, did we?
I'll handle it.
Oh, we're out of money. That would be a good
Come
reason.
back sometime.
So I've instantly used
Don't
all my
forget about
money.
upkeep.
Shh. It's fine. At least we have some characters that we know are significantly more powerful if we just give them the right stuff. You didn't even have a blooming sigil. Okay, you got level 15 weapon, 30, 30, 30, 30. You got 15. I guess that works. It's a bit of nice leveling up we've been doing. As Aaron gives us up. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Cheers very much, Lee. What am I going to do next? Finish that Fate episode, of course. Let's get the slot. So, at least we've got every ability now. An incredibly large power increase on multiple characters.
Garzeda stared at the sunbeams as they illuminated the cliffside. His eyes were watering, and not just from the sun's rays.
When we were kids, we made a promise. Once I became a proper jeweler, I'd share my most treasured secret with her. Cowardly, yes, but that was the only way I could tell her how I felt.
It all made sense now. His deepest, darkest regret was putting off telling her what was in his heart for so long.
We made that promise ages ago. I wouldn't have been surprised if she forgot all about it.
Garzeda paused, as if remembering something. He lifted his gaze to the sky, then continued.
Oh, right. I have to go back to the mines in Tempeal. There are keepsakes of hers there. I don't think she can move on without them.
I could tell how important this was to him. But when the people fled Tempeal, a horde of monsters moved right on in. Actually, forget the fiends. Karzeda wasn't in shape to go anywhere right now. What do these keepsakes look like? I can head to the mines and track him down for you. Considering his condition, I wasn't about to give him room to argue. Besides, I know all about not being able to share the important stuff with a loved one while there's still time. There's so much I didn't get to tell my family. Even now, thinking of our old house makes my heart ache something fierce. That day, there was no one to greet me when I opened the door. Seeing the cold remains of my home tore open a void in my heart. But you know what? I managed to keep going because my friends were there for me. This time it was my turn to support someone who needed it.
Okay, controlling Eugen. This old soldier fights foes while battling his own demons. Able to snipe weaknesses from afar, he's also adept at hand-to-hand combat. Hold square to enter sniper vision. He won't be able to move while in sniper vision, but he'll be able to manually aim his shots. This is especially useful for destroying body parts. Oh, that's a function in this game. We haven't really been introduced to that, I guess. Grenades deal damage to foes in their blast zone. Hold triangle to aim the throw. Grenades explode after a period of time or can be detonated by an attack. They sticky as well?
The keepsake should be somewhere around here. Might as well inspect the mine shafts as we go too.
Why is it falling apart? Furicane's not doing stuff right.
The place is crawling with goblins.
Can't just let them run amok. Time to get to work.
A weird mix between brawling and not as well. How long does it charge for? That far? I like that. Grenade plus.
Now then. Act like they own the place. Yeah, sorry. You're gonna have to move.
There's a sniper in the game. I'm not interested in this, honestly.
Well, who invited you to the party?
Oh, come on, that's a headshot. Like, that should go past the shield. Hey, wait, there's a caster over here? Nice kill, Rockham. I can kind of wreck them.
Watch out!
What?
Got a bomb!
Okay, I may have not been pressing the right buttons there. I tried to grenade.
Pick a rock guy to have a shooting contest with.
Okay, you can dodge out of it. It's like X to get out of it, but you can also dodge out of it. So...
Karzeda's counting on us to find those keepsakes.
This is an interesting way to introduce me to more characters too, to be fair. I would say. Faithful Naita, if I say your name correctly. Thank you for the sub there. Which is very muchly. Do you want me to bomb these keepsakes? I don't think that's what you want me to do. I don't think that was the goal.
A watering can, a shovel. These are the keepsakes.
Huh? Did you hear that?
Hey, you're not allowed to come through.
We got the big one. I think we can rest easy.
Great! Let's head back to town.
Sheesh, the place was crawling with goblins. Good thing we came instead of Karzeda.
think that would officially be a bad character for me to play, because I'd just be at the back shooting people and letting everyone else get chewed up.
Karzeda said his friend loved flowers. Tempeal's soil was harsh and didn't lend itself to flora, but her dream was to grow a variety of flowers and let them bloom all over the land. Knowing how much her dream meant to her, Karzeda wanted to bring her gardening tools back and place them in front of her grave. His hands were trembling when I passed them over.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
He was so choked with emotion that each word sounded pained, like thorns sticking in his throat. I kept my eyes on him. It felt like if I looked away for even a second, he'd fade into the great blue beyond. He was still grappling with his hurt. You wanted to say goodbye to her properly, right? Come on, I'll go with you. I slapped him on the shoulder, silently willing him to pull himself together.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Karzeda hugged the tools tightly against his chest, his teeth biting down hard on his lip. It broke my heart, seeing someone so young deal with such overwhelming tragedy. The least I could do was help him see this through.
Good guy. Another sigil slot has been obtained for another character. So only a few that are allowed to get that at this point in time, though, sadly.
Come to view the
Because
request?
obviously it is going to be a way to upgrade our characters quite significantly. So, with 5 characters now completed, it's time to find out a little bit more about Rosetta, because, let's face it, Primal Beast Rose Queen, the incarnation of... It's a very interesting thought, and also knows Grandfather in the past. We can only view a few by the look of it, so let's go to episode 1, A Priceless Name.
During the war, primal beasts were exploited by the Astrals as instruments of battle. Withered and faded, one primal would eventually drift to Lumassier Archipelago, making a home for herself. Over time, she grew accustomed to the comforts of its forests and the serenity they offered. It was a far cry from the brutalities of war. Centuries would pass until a young man stumbled upon her domain, forever altering the course of her life. She engaged him in a vicious battle, but was ultimately humbled in defeat. Accepting her fate, she resigned herself to death. However, the man would sheath his blade and, to her surprise, asked if she would join him on a journey across the skies. A primal beast was supposedly no more than an astral weapon. Beings born to be controlled, manipulated, and ill-used since time immemorial. She had never entertained the idea of something more. In fact, she hardly had a name for herself. Well, she did have a moniker, but it was a meaningless one, whose sole purpose was to identify her as a weapon. Perhaps out of pity, perhaps out of kindness, the man bestowed upon her a new name. It was from that moment she would truly blossom. Rosetta. It was his gift to her, one she would treasure and love for eternity.
A little bit of knowledge on that point. Is it me, or does some of the audio quality of these vary quite a bit? Episode 2, Entrusted with the Future.
With every union comes an inevitable separation. When his journey neared its final chapters, as he took up arms against the god of destruction, I returned to the forests of Lumassier. After my return to the archipelago, I briefly longed for his companionship, but the flora and fauna kept me company. Decades came and went, and one day I would encounter yet another young visitor to the island. There was no mistaking it. This was his offspring. I realized at that very moment the time had come. He had entrusted this child to me from the ends of the skies. My heart swelled, but I concealed my excitement, flashing naught but a smile at the young captain. I would join the up-and-coming Skyfarer's crew on the Grandcypher for another journey across the skies, this time as a bystander. During their travels, they would experience joys and triumphs alongside loss and hardship. I continued to observe from afar, doing my best to obscure my true intentions. My roots were well planted in the past. Knowing what I knew, would I be able to act as a part of their crew in earnest? Before long, my ambivalence would come to a head. My convictions had begun to waver. Was this the right approach? Of course, I was conscious of reality. I knew their journey wouldn't be easy. They would have to face the harsh life the skies had in store for them. And with our foes only becoming more and more cumbersome even for myself, could I possibly protect them? My presence on the Grandcypher was inconsequential, and at worst, a hindrance to the crew. I thought if I weren't here, the captain, EO, the entire crew would handle themselves just fine. Perhaps the time had come to retire to the forests once more. But as I was preparing to leave, EO grabbed my hand so sweetly, so innocently, and said she needed me to stay. I couldn't bring myself to abandon her. I would be the bystander no longer. Everyone in the crew had a role to play, and I would be the exception no more. Finally, I found my purpose. I was free to experience the skies once again, hand in hand with the captain. It wasn't duty or obligation that anchored me to this crew. It was love. And I promised to always protect them. I would leave no regrets in the skies. Thus, our journey continued. Only this time I felt that I was a true member of the Grandcypher.
Now, what's the point that we continue that? That's the real question. So that leaves us with just one more to go, and we can go through a few of these, but not episode 4 by the look of things. So Yodarha will end off our Fate episodes for now as we get to exploring yet again, I guess. Episode 1, Life Without Focus.
Time passed, and the swordsman found himself atop a different mountain, where he learned he had a knack for fishing. Suited him just fine. Bass for breakfast, salmon for supper, and naps in between. Yep, it suited him just fine. It was the quiet, healing life of a hermit. Sometimes, when he needed supplies, he would go down to the village and train the locals in a little sword work. That made his coin purse jingle again.
Onwards.
But this piece wasn't to last for the swordsman. He discovered his top disciple was back to her wicked ways, and, sword in hand, he vowed to conclude her story for good. This was his true purpose for traveling with the crew, though the young captain never suspected the little Harvan fisherman was harboring such a dark secret.
Thanks for the sub there, Soph, and welcome to the stream today. Well, she was harmless. Obviously not. Episode 2, by my own hand.
The former disciple's latest victim had been a simple man from a remote mountain area, cut down, somehow without the use of her sword. A real shame that one more innocent life lost before its time. The swordsman asked the crew to make haste to the village. When he saw the murdered man's corpse, such was the carnage that he could barely keep from averting his eyes. It was his weakness, his cowardice, that cost this poor man's life. But this time, instead of wallowing in pity, he would don his white uniform of old and atone. He called it his burial garb, and it represented his fearlessness on the battlefield. If he were dressed to meet death face to face, what more could his foes do to intimidate him? Of course, his crewmates tried to reason with him, concerned he might throw his life away to make up for the wrongdoing of another. But the Swordmaster was determined. He had vowed to stop his former disciple, whatever risk that entailed. So, when finally the moment of reckoning had come, the Master gripped his blade, ready to strike down his favored pupil. Before he could do the deed, however, his resolve crumbled. His emotions were too strong, dulling his senses and causing him to lose the match. The Master's former youngest disciple, with his two newest pupils watching from the sidelines, rushed to aid him. Ironically, it was the youngest disciple who struck down the fiend in place of the Master. The swordsman was lost in grief, but his newfound champion told him this was for the best. After all, such an old life deserved the rest of its days to be spent in peace.
And we end our Fate episodes with episode 3 of Yodarha, Adrift.
After joining up with the crew, I've had some helter-skelter days, let me tell you. So when we arrived in Zegagrande, I knew I needed to get myself some fishing done. Reset the old noggin. Found a nice quiet pond and dropped my line. Bless me taters. Must have been hours past with no bite. Finally, I decided to pull up my rod and check if the bait was still hardy. But there weren't no baits, no hook, and no fish. Only a lonely little bobber remained on the line. Right, well, what about me traps? I was halfway through the search when I realized, blast, I left them in the lodge. What a day, what a day. But it was too late in the noon to go back for them, and I had other business to attend to, like getting back to the pond and staring out at the clear water. In that moment of stillness, the fishies swam out of their hiding spots. There were big ones and little ones, and the whole school of them reminded me of my teaching days. Each of my disciples was unique in their own right. Had me some slow learners and some fast ones, some goody two-shoes and some real punks. I learned me some good lessons from those kids. My top student, Grace, never wavered in her particular sense of justice, and her commitment to her training was ironclad. What a waste. Rains, my youngest pupil, lost his way for decades after leaving my tutelage, but he ended up killing Grace in my stead. He was selfless, thinking only of his master. They say the master extracts potential from the student, but I fear I've ruined more young lives than I've helped. Makes a fisherman wonder how they all would have turned out had he just kept well enough to himself. I turned Grace into a monster. Not a day goes by I don't regret honing her skills. Unfortunately, she had the gift and the gumption to go far, and I exhausted all my knowledge on her. If only I had focused more on the why of my teachings rather than the what. Huh? I swore I felt a nibble at my rod, but when I pulled it up, there was nothing to be found. That's when I remembered I still hadn't hooked or baited the line. That was odd. I was getting antsy. Maybe it was because I forgot the traps, but I couldn't relax just sitting there anymore. I decided to pack up and head back into town. You see, the mind is like a creek. You want to keep it healthy. You gotta keep the waters from stagnating. But sharing them too much, and you risk losing all your fish. I decided to head to Sierra's shack and replace some fishing gear, hopefully restoring my brain pond in the process. But just as I was dipping my toes into the placid waters of the lures and bait, I heard a rustle from behind. And to my surprise, they were my crewmates, picking up a package. Said they were bored at the inn and asked if they could come fishing with me. Youngsters so bored they wanted to go fishing? First time for everything, huh? While I was hammering out the finer points of fly casting with the captain, Sierra Carte piped up, said she'd come across a pretty tasty rumor.
Yep, apparently there's a legendary fisherman in the Skydom that people have started calling the Fisher God.
I'd heard rumors like this one before, and they always stank like fish guts. Catching 10 fish with one cast, netting a whole consortium of crabs. By yourself? Gah! If I had a fin for every story like this, I'd be a pretty scary sea monster by now. Then again, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued. There's a scale of truth to every story, so there must be a reason they call this person the Fisher God. Guess you might say my interest was piqued. Because if this fella were half as good as me, he'd make a mighty fine rival. And maybe that's just what I needed.
So there we go. Our Fate episodes are up to date for now. Until we get a ton more. Everyone has gone as far as they can go. We've got all the stats from it too. Now I don't feel like I'm missing out on stuff or behind the trend in a sense. So we will catch them whenever we can catch them again. Let's check out Folka for a little bit as we go on. But that was 2 whole episodes of stuff, to be fair. More than I thought. I still do not have your golem finger, sir.